It's pointing to the same thing. Capacity.
Nothing changes under the sun.
Yeah, and nothing's new. There's nothing new can be created. It's all been already done.
Just renamed and recovered.
So we're all in D right now, and to argue about C is pointless. This is a group solely to get people from D back to A, using the law. We don't need to use theories. I'm the worst for that because I like to put it in other words. William will hit you with like all the English law. He's the one who's gone through the law libraries and uploaded it to omnipotence.ca for us all.
So basically, this is just a reversionary trust issue, and that's all this group is formed for, really.
That's all that matters.
You're trying to be tricky with words, though.
Well, is it? You just reversionary trust, right?
Right. But if you're in the capacity of the donor to the land and you've got your release from the land tenure, right, with all the correct writs that will protect you from their jurisdictions harming you, then you won't be in the Skype group. You won't be talking unless you just want to contribute to other Ds getting out.
Okay.
Right. Because it really, there's nothing in common with any of the D or A's, people that are donors out of equity. Don't have anything in common with this group, especially if they're already producing everything on their own, right? Electricity, food, water, right? All your main essentials. You don't need to use this group. This is the group just to show you the law, what we've come across in the English law. Everybody's in a capacity of D, which is citizen. They got to get out of that capacity. That's it.
She kind of stated it, though, as a reversionary trust. It's not really a reversionary trust. It's a reversion or a reclaiming by law.
The reversionary trust is the land tenure, which in Canada is represented by the registration of live birth document. All provinces across, including the people that they're calling Indians, are now being switched into that process. But kid yourself not, it's all the same process, all across. So UK, Australia, Canada, United States, New Zealand.
Registration of birth.
Yeah, anywhere. In other words, if you got any kind of trust and you're in the capacity of D, it's property of C, which is truly property of B, which is only being held in trust for A. But B can't have access to the trust. They don't have capacity to use or that trust. That's why there's C, the land trust corporations, such as Canada, United States, etc.
Administering for people.
You should maybe explain what the
So you are you not the one that's claimed to be a judge?
I am.
Okay, judge in where? What?
I am a judge in the nation state, which we call the, it's a soil jurisdiction. Just
Where's your seat in law?
from the local jural assembly.
What's that?
An assembly is a group of people who've already attained their non-citizen status.
So there are a bunch of donors?
Yes. With respect
No
to
equity?
what we're talking about. No, they have equity. But you see,
No, they're not in equity.
they're not in equity, but they have persons that operate in equity.
So they all have confirmation releases from the Queen's Bench.
Yes. At least what
So-
is our Queen's Bench.
In Alaska?
Yes, we have a Queen's Bench in Alaska. Or the
Well,
equivalent.
if you've got that, then you're in reversion now.
Right.
She's talking about this.
Yeah, where do you live?
But no, I'm just talking about this in terms of, I would like to know more about these specific issues, especially as they pertain to Canada. And I think we've already cracked our nut here. But I do believe that I have a lot of friends in all these other countries, and people come to me from these other countries all the time looking for help. And so I would like to know more simply in terms of the history in Canada and where Canada stands now, and in the UK, and maybe this group will grow into something that can be a hub to help people.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what the original I guess idea was to create for this central hub. But if you're in reversion already, you only need to keep reminding them to do the same process as you.
Anna, do you own the land that you live on?
Yes, I do.
Did you buy it or claim it?
I bought it and claimed it after I had no debt to anyone related.
Okay, but see, your capacity is what got you there, though. You bought it.
When you said you've got a deed of release, do you mean when you're doing the work you do, or when you go home as citizen? Because you can be two different capacities.
We've got a couple of things that are unique in this country. For one thing, the actual land trust is a trust that's held by a municipal power, not the territorial government, the Queen in this case. Once you redeem your land by paying it off, you get a certificate of redemption. And once you have a certificate of redemption, you can reconvey that property to the original land jurisdiction. And that in itself creates a situation where you can correct the deed, take it out of the trust, and return it to its original state by a meets and bounds landmarking process. So what we did was we had our certificate of redemption recorded, not registered, recorded, and we changed to a meets and bounds property, which is according to landmarks, not according to land descriptions that are non-physical. And then we renamed the property because in all these foreclosure cases that we have going on, they're not actually foreclosing on the property, the actual asset. They're foreclosing on the description of the asset. So when you actually invoke the reversionary trust interest and take your land out of trust, then you are dealing with a situation where you need to copyright the name of your estate. Otherwise, they can continue to claim that it's their estate, if that makes any sense.
Don't you feel, though, you've fell in a huge pit?
No.
Because you've mentioned some things that already that has popped up for me, like you're in the wrong capacity. Yeah. You would never have done that if you were a donor to the land. You've just volunteered to be a trustee, and what's happened is the monarchy is going through a switchover that nobody knows about, and it's irrelevant to talk about. But what we've agreed to be is part of that C. So you're just trying to say, hey, I'm not going to be C, I'm going to be my own C.
Even if she got...
Which is fine. They're letting people do that right now, because when they go to switch over, they come after the people that are in the wrong capacities.
No, you're just talking about a switch between municipal and territorial governments. And that
it should be irrelevant, though. If you're the donor to the land, you wouldn't be dealing with any government. Government is something that's self-governing for you. That's private. You wouldn't be sharing that with anybody.
How can you also go and be a judge if you're a donor? By you being a judge in itself is proving to me that you're not a donor.
We can all operate in many different jurisdictions and wear many different hats so long as we know what we're doing.
Welcome to the sea.
Fee simple.
This is what we're trying to explain, is that we can't use those capacities.
Sure you
If you're
can.
acting as a strict function of government.
Yeah, you can, but it puts you into a different capacity.
You literally
You said you bought your land, which means that you were in fee simple. Then you said you claimed it. Well, were you in possession when you claimed it? Because if you were, you disbarred yourself from the inheritance. So you surely didn't claim it as a donor. So you don't have a land confirmation release, which would exempt you.
Let me explain something.
She may just talking about one that she gets for her position that also
Let me
covers
explain
her.
something.
Yeah, let her explain.
We have different names so that we can function in different venues of the law. And your hat, so to speak, that you're wearing and the venue that you're in is described according to the name and or title if you have one. Judge is a title, for example. That automatically means that you're you're restricting what that name is operating under for your own purpose. So think of it in terms of admiralty or maritime law, where a name is a vessel, and you can have many, many, many different vessels, and they can operate in many different jurisdictions. And it's just up to you to be able to deal with the differences and to know the laws that apply. Does that help?
Right, which no law would apply to you if you're back in your donor state unless you've agreed upon something.
Yeah, it sounds to me that you're operating in a capacity called a proprietor. And as a proprietor, most people think, oh, we're the owner, we're the proprietor. But a proprietor comes, when you start to look up the history, and I can send it to you, but about predator or praetor really is what it was back in the Roman days and things like that. But basically, it was just like someone who had gained some land through knight service, but he still had a loyalty to the king, but he retires and he goes off and, sits in his own land. Go ahead.
Well, to begin with, land is a political description. Land only exists as part of a political system. Okay, what you're really talking about?
Whoa! That you're talking about equity. We don't want to go into C. That's equity.
Well, and I'm telling you, when you use the word land, you're talking about equity. When you
we're talking about it from the donor capacity, which means far more.
Talking about it as soil. Soil is different than land.
So I ask this really small question a lot of times to see how people understand this law and the process. And I ask them, what is your seat in law or your source of authority for your land? And it should be just a simple question, and it's my confirmation, my release that I got from my Queen's bench. Because that's where you then start with your real authority, because they've taken away your minor status. If you didn't do that rightfully, they're just letting you do whatever you want, because we're at a time now where it's going to be very profitable for people to be governed that are doing things such as yourself. It's worked this far. Don't get me wrong. It's going to come to a point where they come to you and they're going to ask, well, where is your source in law? You made a claim as D.
Not a deed. A conveyance of a pre-existing title to a pre-existing trust.
But the trust is only the land. So that would have been, the first subject matter would have been that the corporate ID, that you release it of all duties, rights, and actions. So part of those actions is to make a claim of right.
But as I pointed out, we have a somewhat different situation here in America because we had repudiated the king.
You're telling me the land between Canada, Alaska, and United States of America are different?
They are.
Okay.
The king operates under delegated authority on our property.
The equity jurisdiction will be different.
Yes, it is.
Oh, of course.
That's what
We're not talking about equity, though.
Yeah, that's what she's not understanding. You know, everyone will have their
You
own.
can claim your stuff in equity, yeah, and you can get away with a lot of stuff in equity, but equity
Government
is
have
starting
made
to
their
close
own
up
laws,
here.
haven't they?
Yeah, it's going to get really tight here for people. So I'd recommend
equity-
getting out equity.
Equity is the counterfeit of the true law. That's the thing that's the hardest thing to understand. Everything can be done the same as it could be done as you were the donor, but it's all under a counterfeit, which is called fee simple. So even though you can do all these things and it seems like you're doing all these things, you're not really on the promised land. You're on someone else's land using it as, like, say, a proprietor, and they give you all the rights as if you were the king or over the land, but you're not. You're still underneath that authority. And until you get to the promised land and get the release of that land to you and you alone with no absolute owner over the top of you, you're not in a donor status.
Do you have to pay land tax at all, or any form of tax?
No. She's you guys. She's like the new government for the land. That's all she is. She's in the capacity of C. She's D risen to C, which is what they're letting people do. They're letting people do crazy things right now.
And that's
because it's going to be extremely profitable for the C's that are authentic under B. The C is going to clamp down on people like you, Anna, and they're going to hit you hard. They're going to hit you with the OPCA litigation. You can't be in two jurisdictions at once. D cannot do anything that A can do. A, B, and C are not privy to A.
Your vessels can be in any jurisdiction. You can place them there.
But that's just equity.
Your vessel, yes, vessels is under admiralty law in England, Canada, and Australia.
Yeah, I'm talking about getting out of that.
We have our own law, which is not equity. We have our own law. American common law is not the same as British or English
law.
law.
American common law is based on the OCT-1-4, which is part of the Treaty of Paris, which they don't have no more either.
Common law and equity.
This is why Trump remade the law, which is going to clamp down on you guys real fast and hard this year. So I don't have time to argue on equity. Equity is not a place that you want to be. You're not sui juris in equity. You can never be sui juris in equity. This is what I found out by reading the law.
Americans never enjoined equity.
America declared their independence.
Yeah, we don't recognize equity.
But why did you do that in 1776? Why did you do that?
Why did we do that? In part because of what we're discussing right now. They didn't want equity.
Because America was the caretaker of the OCT for this part of the land, which the Vatican was holding. Sebastian Legazpi has taken that away from them. So this is why you got B's going through a power struggle, which is only going to change with the people. The people have to change this. The new B is not a super B. It's a slave B. She has nothing. This is why everybody's opposing her, because they think she's a threat. You need to understand that equity is going to change.
All she's claiming is territorial governments that actually, in fact, belong to us. They were under our charter.
No, because government doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the monarchy. And she is the one that, through the scripture, which gave the monarchy their own power, she took that because of what the original signers to the contract, which was the OCT-1-4, had given to her through blood. No different than what we're doing now with our own land, except for she does it to C. She redeems the equity, but we have to redeem our land.
You show me where in the OCT-1-4 any real American agreed to any of that. And then you show me in the structure of the United States.
Acceptance. Did you accept your corporate ID? If you accepted your corporate ID, it's mute. I don't have to go and show you anymore because you don't understand. Your acceptance is what made the agreement. And if you've accepted anything in municipal law, anything in equity, it's put a disability between you and your inheritance. So in order to get your inheritance, your land, anything in that land, I'm not talking about soil or anything, I'm talking just between real.
What you're not understanding is that we, the living man, is the original holder in due course. And all vessels, territorial, municipal, corporate, it doesn't matter. All vessels that the government then creates are 100% derivatives of that original holder in due course. Once you become the holder,
Cool. So that means you've signed
The government.
the independence, your Declaration of Independence. That means you signed that. You're a party to that.
once you claim your original status, your birthright, okay, and you are a man, right? You're a living being. You have absolutely. You are the holder in due course of your.
But what's the test, Anna, to be that capacity that you keep calling a man? Because my little boy is a man. I call him an immature, undeveloped man. Because once he develops into a mature state and hits puberty, then I call him a mature man.
Right.
But boy and all these other weird names is irrelevant. It's just man, right? You're man, I'm man, right? So that's a mute point now.
A living being exists in a completely different capacity and jurisdiction than anything that is created by statute, political definition.
And you're talking about natural law.
Okay. So.
Okay. So in natural law, two men agreed to protect land from other evil people. And now fast forward to 2018, we don't know about that. And we try getting out of that, not through the proper process, but we void the warranty, which disbars us from the inheritance. We get mad, we get angry, we blame and point fingers. But in reality, it's because we just don't know no more. So if you can't accept that that's where you're at, then this might be the wrong chat for you, because I'm taking it easy on you. William would be hitting you so hard, and he'd be throwing every law at you. The law between A.
That's good though. If she
and B.
If we can get that to her and she sees it after this discussion, if she's open to reading that at least, then she'll see it. And then
she's talked with William before. This isn't a new process. She knows what William's about. So William's been around for a while.
Actually, I don't know the process. I don't know what he's claiming as a process to get from D to A.
So do you know about 6 Anne chapter 18? Do you know about 6 Anne chapter 18? That's the authority that allows the monarchy. So only the guy that's in the Queen's Bench capacity, no equitable court. If you've gone to that court, you're done. You got to go to the right court. You got to use the right process. So you have to create an affidavit. You have to release all your rights, duties, and actions for the corporate person. That's how you say no. That's how you, as an adult, that's how you say no to the contract that you signed up to by your parents, which protected your land, obviously from your stupid parents. Not yours personally, I'm just saying that overall. Right? Our parents are very foolish to get us into the system.
And when you prove that it's a choice through obviously the set of KV and the Bill of Rights, you choose and 1707 6 and chapter 18, when you return from sea, obviously released from all your rights, duties, actions, real and personal.
Well, you skip. Released yourself. That's going to get you now for them to switch the court. So that's that inherited jurisdiction that everybody talks about on the internet there. That's the court that you want to bring it to. So now they're going to be looking at you not as D but as A. And they're not going to be as C, they're going to be as B. Now you're going to go through the 6 Anne chapter 18 process, because that's what allows them to determine if there is truly a living being here standing before the court, which in English law, and unfortunately all of the dominions today in the world, have the supreme judge of land sitting at the Queen's bench. It's not your Queen Elizabeth II. It's not the British monarch. It's just that one individual guy who's sitting there representing it all. And he needs to see the proper process that goes according to the warranty that's annexed at common law. That's your registration of live birth document. I'm not sure what you guys call it in America. That's where the Americans need to step up and find out what they call their land tenure. But it's going to be something like act of live birth or something along those lines. That's your warranty. Yeah, that's your warranty. You need to re-emit that after you've released yourself from the corporate duties, rights, and actions. And this is all explained in Black's commentary and Coke Littleton. It's just all there. And that's why they use that as the source of law for common law.
When you get that deed of release under seal, that's when you can obviously move to your writ of entry to now vest your estate.
Right. So then, yeah, once they've
Re-enter
done
the-
they've done 6 and chapter 18, right? They've released you. Now you need to vest your land, because this isn't a go home and celebrate, let's party, and we'll come back at this in a
You need your
couple
writ
years.
of prohibition to obviously
Right.
stop.
Well, you want to do your writ of entry. You want to get into your land.
Yeah,
right?
once you've claimed your lands.
And before you went into the Queen's Bench, you had to make these claims to the guys that are decising you. So the ones that are holding in possession of the land. If there's nobody in possession of the land, great. You just have to go after Pfeiffer, which is the guy that the state. So for you, it'll be Alaska. If nobody's in possession of your lands. If you were in possession of your own land and tried to do this, you're punching yourself in the face.
Yeah, it's
you're
not
unsound.
an injury.
You can't do
no
it.
Injury
yeah.
there.
Well, there is an injury because
you've
gone at it as D. So
so
it's
you're
like
you're the injury.
Right, you've injured yourself. So you have to go through it the right process, because once they see that you're now at the capacity of being sound mind, you're following the recognized process through the law, which your warranty is annexed to. The common law isn't between you and the donor. It's only between you and the donor at that little tiny process where you're getting out. Because the common law is between B and B. And you'll start to see that makes no sense, but anything that you say past B doesn't make sense to me no more. So when you're saying you made this claim and all this, yeah, you did it as D, trying to be a new C, which they're allowing because B is fighting with another B.
I didn't. I went through a name change process and a reconveyance to get there. And I also have a porting treaty, which brings me back onto the land. You have to do that by a treaty, not by a writ.
If we just stop before that, because America itself, so you said yourself you're using America's common law. Well, America itself is just a municipal corporation. It's all part of the system, the English
which
law
is part
system.
of English. Yeah, it's part of England and Wales.
I think I could dissect this all for you in a way you would understand, but some of the things that you're saying are very ignorant. The fact is this is far more complex than you're grasping, and there are far more jurisdictions involved.
After this, they all come after.
But you're right. You're right.
How many jurisdictions do you think there is for the donor of the land? Because I think that's what you're trying to call the living being.
The living being, yes.
Yeah, the living being doesn't have to go rename anything. The living being doesn't have to do anything.
But in order to get agreement with other living beings and with other principalities, yes, A does have to take action to defend A.
Okay, so this is where you think that I'm being ignorant. I'm using the common law that the British monarch has set up.
They're mirrored.
Which has never been repealed, has never changed. It's still active right to this day. The privy councils of every state body are proof that there's people in reversion. But you can't go around blabbing it around, because then you break that privy, which is between you and the land trust company that's taking care of the land for the miners and the unsound.
Well, what's here for us is that the British government is a territorial government with respect to me, okay?
No, it was just the source in law, or the seat in law, or the authority to allow your municipality to go and do what it's doing right now, which is allowing you to do what you're doing with the municipality. But you need to jump out a few jurisdictions and get back to where there's nobody that's saying that you have to do this or you do this. They're actually releasing you, exempting you. That's where the writ of prohibition would come in, or prohibition.
Right. But all of this has gone on from where you guys are viewing it. This is now in a modern world, in a modern setting, and a lot of relationships that apply to, say, Canada and Australia.
But Anna, the only thing that is mutating or evolving is equity.
The very system you keep explaining
B's law is never changing. It's never changed. It's remained the same. That's why it's going on 951 years since William the Conqueror has usurped this. The 1,000-year reign is about to end. But in another 49 years, because right now it's just not.
Any law you get there on after is bound by that very fact.
You think the settlement of the Norman conquest commenced the beginning of the 1,000-year reign of peace? Hello?
No.
What do you think we're in?
I think that if anything, what it did was it created an entirely new paradigm that we're struggling with to this day.
But it hasn't changed. They just what happened is they put a mirror in front of you and then put a mirror behind you. And every time you look and see a new you think it's something real. But you need to get rid of the mirrors, which is the two jurisdictions. The land tenure governs that. And if you accepted anything that's come from that land tenure, which is equity, then those are your two mirrors. The reality.
Those mirrored images are called persons, and those persons...
Right, person is a capacity, though. Person isn't a physical thing. You can't touch it.
Those persons are vessels for operation in jurisdictions that have no physical reality.
Right. So, like, I don't understand what you wanna live there? That's a dangerous place to be.
I don't want to be in a perversion that anyone should be placed in the position that we've been placed in.
Oh, I agree.
But the point of it is that you can go where you want to go or use these persons or not at your discretion once you have possession of your estate. Once you have your life estate, which includes your given trade name.
In your true capacity as well. That's the key.
You can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. You don't have to, give up. You say, all right, all action, all duties. You don't have to give up anything. What you have to do is learn how to operate correctly using the right vessel.
No, that's something you can do. But that's not what this group is. This group is true freedom to get out of any of that, Claim your lands and be self-governing. You look after yourself. You take yourself out of this system.
Yeah, in order for you to have capacities to even work and to roam around this world in peace, like you're describing, you have to have the British monarchy. This is why we describe it as it's a great thing. Right? Because they're here to protect the minors and the unsound and the incompetents. So if you're being competent, you're being sound, you're not a minor, you know of the law that's put you into where you are, then this is a very simple process. It's the fact that we, through inculcation, not education, we were trained about all this stuff in equity. So then we jump out of equity caused by some problem that didn't seem fair to us, and we were taught the wrong information because nobody sat in the libraries and read the actual law that's governing C. Because when you read what governs C, it no longer matters what C or the law underneath C is doing. That's none of your business. That's for minors and unsound people, especially the people that are entrusted to take care of them. So if that's what you're going after and want to stay in that place, like I said, that's fine. But I don't recommend that. That's going to be a very not safe place to be.
And everyone's assumed to be that person through various things: descent, purchase, library by says-in, all of these things.
All it takes is the monarchy to be wiped out. And if that monarchy collapses, everything that you found in peace falls. This is why I say it is the 1,000 years of peace being declared. We are in peace and security. You just thought peace and security may have been something that it's obviously not. But we're in it right now. I can't go and take your land without some kind of recourse, and I surely can't disinherit you of your land. Neither can the Queen of the South. Neither can these evil corporations. It's all on our error, ERR, our folly. Right? We didn't do the right capacity. We didn't go to the right court. We didn't use it in the right capacity. We didn't use the law that our warranty is annexed to. Therefore, we fall. We're unsound. But yet, it does sound really good morally, because that's where we come from, is that moral compass. We don't come from a legal compass. That's why it's so easy not to see what's going on.
The law of the land is lawful. The law of the sea is legal. So anytime
Right.
you're talking about legal anything, you're talking about a person, and you're talking about a jurisdiction of the sea, either admiralty or maritime.
Right, and
So-
you keep saying that you want to be at the sea, but Anna, you're a pirate.
No, I'm not.
Well, who's
That's what
the head of your state? Who created your laws?
I can operate under the Alaska State Compact, or I can.
And what is that?
But look at what you're acting at. It's
Yeah,
all,
what is
it's
that?
all corporations.
Yeah, well, you don't get away from corporations. Anytime you take things beyond the organization of a single living being, you're going to be dealing with concepts that are not actual.
No, that's
But if you
just-
have your own land, it's a whole
Exactly.
different game.
When you're a donor.
As I keep trying to tell you, it's not a matter of having your own land, it's a matter of having your own soil. If you want to be free of political restraint.
But what authority, what seat in law did you use to get there? Because you keep just saying you made a claim. First you incriminated yourself. And to be simple, you said you bought it.
You can't
And then
claim
you
that
made a
land,
claim.
that soil.
So you, by
No,
assumption,
no,
I'm going
no,
to say you're in
no,
possession.
No, when you buy something, you clear all claims.
Okay, so when you cleared all claims, what capacity were you doing it in?
When I cleared the claims, I was acting in joinder with the government of the state of Alaska, which had placed this land in trust for the Alaska state.
And how did they get their authority?
And I can say that you plus C are now acting for B. That's why you're not
Yeah.
paying any property tax.
So how did they get their authority?
They're going to want that money. It's just like same as self-contracting. You don't have to pay tax, but they're going to want it at some point.
It's called performing a function of government.
People have soil, okay?
No,
Then you have the
people don't have soil because people is
Then
a group of people.
No, you have a monarchy that owns land, okay?
That's a presumption in equity.
Well,
Under
the
common law, she doesn't own
the
anything.
monarchy holds,
She's
the
got stuff in
monarchy-
trust, land.
yeah, the monarchy holds it under trust under a sovereign letters patent. Then you have the government, which holds the title on the trust. Okay.
But your sovereign letters patent is an ecclesiastic instrument, which is only deprived from the canon law, which, if you look, is your Vatican
The
source of
highest
power.
law.
No, it isn't. Canon law isn't the highest
No,
law. So you're
second.
telling me my child knows what canon law is?
The ecclesiastical law, not canon law per se. Canon law is within the church. Canon law is
Ecclesiastic law is not it either. Natural law is
Popish
the
faith.
law of God, the creator of this world, the soil that you talk about.
the law.
And then obviously our natural intrinsic what's the word I'm thinking of?
Natural law is not written down, okay? Natural law is, you fall down when you fight into Mr. Gravity. The law of the land is based on the Old Testament. Always has been for centuries, okay? So the law of the land is a specific written law. That's written
Natura Brevia that
It's
William
all-
Blackstone footnotes.
It's all ecclesiastical.
So you're gonna tell me that you're using the Torah to get out?
Not just me. Everybody is under the law of the land. Where do you think the monarch gets their authority, if not from God? And why does the queen and the coronation?
Well,
No,
I
it's
can
from
tell
the
you.
owner.
I can tell you where it's from. It's from 1302. This modern world, it's in 1302, where they declared that they Deanum Sanctum. That's where you're going to find your problem running right there. But that doesn't have, that could be repealed. And all that's going to do is make C go after D, who's not in the right capacity. So that means if you have assets in the Jubilee, you're going to have to pay off for those assets for the single Jubilee, which is going to be 49 years. So that's not going to even be a good thing for people. People still have to learn about what happened between that 0 to 7 years where, you know, we just play now as children. Play, children. Play. Go to school. That's not what's, like, it's just so vain to say that the Torah is what can get you out, because that's not what's happening. Because the Torah is actually ordaining Queen Elizabeth to do exactly what she does, which is become a land trust monarchy. But she has no access as being a body politic. So, like, only her in her individual capacity could take care of your land. Which, if you look at that, that doesn't happen. Which is why she created corporations, so that they could take care of that capacity. Expecting, you know, that the people that are born on the land, the inhabitants, they rise up from that soil, stand for the soil. But you don't do that if you're going at it through D, and the process you've done in the other people is not the process that this is.
Was it
That's not reversion.
1535 or 1666
No.
or a different date when the king basically took all the lands back from the Popish faiths?
1925 is your law of property, and then there's one that's at 1535.
Yeah.
But like I said, like the Torah started the authority that they had to usurp what they did. Went to fee simple, which is unlawful, which the scripture is claiming as error. That is that error, that folly that God says don't do. But you've gone and done it, so now you need to have to get out of it correctly. And since you don't do it to an individual, how do you do it as in a private capacity? Well, the Queen made that ordained process. You go to the Supreme Court or the Queen's Bench Justice. Yeah. That man there is that man in private that you would go to. And since you're going to be like, well, I stubbed my toe, and he's going to go, well, you're in equity, go to a different court. Well, that's why you'd be going, you're not giving my land back. I made a claim already to you. I wasn't in possession, so I now own it according to your land. Right? I'm just not in the physical possession, so I have the right of possession to it. They're divorcing you if they don't release it. But you can't be on the land itself.
What you're not understanding is that it's not you; it's your name. They've copyrighted your name,
Anna, but I'm not playing the name and capacity game. I'm talking about the donor. So I'm always going to be coming at it from, when I say you, I'm talking about you as your physical body, the soul that's inhabiting that body, standing at wherever it is that you're calling whatever you're calling home. That place has to be exempt from the British monarchy. It can only be exempt using the process that's the states of reversion, which is you got to make your proper claims to the decisor or the fee offer, which would be your Alaska. You can't be in possession. You can't have any equity assets. So you got to give them to either somebody that's you can trust and put it into a trust and let them take care of it until you get out and get into reversion, and then you can get it back. Then you make your claims to the actual land that you're taking. You make your Queen's Bench application. So that application is where you're going to resign. You're going to release the duties, the rights, the actions of the corporate ID. That's where you're saying officially, as a man, woman, a living soul, somebody who's sui juris of their own right, which is what Jesus Christ is.
Because you're releasing the real and personal.
Right, but you have the option of retaining all persons named after you.
But stop. Okay, so now once you release that, you're gonna vest your land, right? So upon vesting that land, they're going to now exempt it from their jurisdictions, which is good. But now you also want a writ of waste, because you want all of the herediments, any equitable waste that's attached to that land, anything. It's all calculated. You want that back. And that's what they're going to get back to you. Now, you can also go after your annuities for your equitable person. So that's basically the insurance value of that D character that you were playing. So as you still want to play as D and use it freely, go ahead. But you can get that value for D back. you can get all the equitable waste value that was done to your land back. Then once you got that, there's your money thing solved. That's kind of where y'all's talking about, like, rich man can't get into the kingdom, because you'll be given everything once you go to that kingdom within, right? You become conscious and become capacity of knowledge of the law that's governing your land. Then you can come back, use your warranty that's annexed in their law, which is your registration of live birth. You might want to have a copy of that, so that you can come in and go, okay, well, here's my warranty, here's my land. I want you to calculate the waste and this and get back. Then you want your writ of prohibition so that, you know, they can't go and injure you further. So when you're driving around with your vehicle, your car, your ride, your box of wheels, whatever people want to call, whatever they call, I just call it car because that's what normally people call it. That thing won't be interfered with by equity, by C. C won't disturb it. It won't matter where you go. You'll be exempt. That's where we want to go.
I'm exempt. I have Z tags on my vehicle, my car. Nobody bothers me. I have no problems. I pay no taxes. You're
it's a different type of exemption.
What happens when you die, though?
Then I have the right to give my property, my assets, in any jurisdiction whatsoever by my testament. You don't want a will, you want a testament. And you create a testament by affixing your words to the New Testament.
The point is, you don't need any of that.
Right. Well, no, the point is that you're still doing it in that capacity that you think you're not doing it. They're accepting it because they're trying to criminate people. This is going to be so profitable, what they're about to do. I don't know how people don't see what's coming. It's going to be so profitable for C to go after and reprimand D, who's not in the right capacity. You cannot be in two jurisdictions at once. So if you have a use of something and you're not paying a fee, that goes against the common law. You are injuring the donors to the land. There's no way to look around it. You're being lawless.
No, you can own your persons, just like you own a vessel at sea. Can you own a boat? Yes. Can you own a ship?
So
yes.
How do you own something that's not real?
This is what we're saying. You can own it. You in the manner you are. We get that, but it's still ultimately, if we come after your land as donor, and we serve our notices of interest or in land to you, and treat you as a fee simple subject, we would still have superior title over you.
The superior title belongs to the land. All of the other things comes from the land, but the land comes from the soil.
But if you're using persons, that means you're still in the capacity of use. You're not sui juris. Somebody's made that person, and now you're
using it.
You do own it. I could be Dr. Justin. Would you want to come and get heart surgery with me?
When you stand on the soil,
I can stand on the soil and do it too, Anna. It still doesn't make a sound argument.
A person on the land, a person on the sea, and a person in the air.
There's only a man at land, because the persons are all undead, and sea is an undead jurisdiction. You can't have life in the death.
I'm telling you, land is a dead jurisdiction. Land is a political jurisdiction.
But I'm not saying land from equity, and this is where you're hitting this invisible barrier between our communication. I'm speaking from that. It's nonsense. It makes nothing but my head hurt.
If you were speaking from the capacity of A, you'd be speaking from the capacity of soil, not land.
Okay. But you're playing a word game.
Different jurisdictions have different meanings for the same word.
So then if you're the true owner of your land, that means that you're not using capacities of persons. Because a true owner of soil, and I mean soil in your context, would surely not use persons, because there would be no need to. It's contradictive. You're saying I'm using persons, but for what use? Like, just there, I have to use the word. I can't avoid using use.
Yes, you can. Because as a man on the land, you are a physical being on a physical piece of
Okay, but
soil,
see, but
rock.
but I gotta stop you. You just totally countered yourself there. Your first few words, man on the land. Who owns the land? And that will determine where we are, what jurisdictions we're playing with.
You can
Yeah.
own soil, okay?
Right, I can go to Walmart and buy soil. Anybody can.
No, you can own the soil.
What do you mean? No. But this is what I'm trying to explain to you. What is.
But your person can own land.
Right. Equity is a trustee. So when you say a person can own land, I hear in equity, real people can think they own land by being trustee and paying a fee. And now they allow you to be exempt from that fee because there's a switchover going.
It's simple. It's just, who are you? What is your capacity whilst you're getting that soil? You keep saying, oh, it's a person. Well, in that case, your fee simple.
Look,
let me interrupt here for a second. I have a feeling that what the deal is this is what bugged me about this whole thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but as a person, which is a fiction, right, a dead thing, a corpse, whatever you want to call it, a use, he can only use things because he's not alive. So he can only use things. Owns those things and uses those. See, then we have to say use, but I'm trying to say there's a difference between an owner, the actual owner of the person, and the use of it, the owning of a thing or the using of a thing. A landlord compared to a tenant. A landlord, just use this example because only I can explain it. A landlord.
Well, the man is the living soul, the living being, right? Your person, you're giving too much to the fiction. A person is capacity. That's it. That's why the body politic, which is the pseudonym in law called Queen Elizabeth II, her British monarchy, which is a use, which when you put it into equity becomes named, called the crown. That's all that is. She can't do anything with the land unless we, as the stupid donors to the land, not knowing, volunteer to her land trust companies. That's the injury to ourselves. That's what bars us. That's where everybody's having this communication barrier. It's what the law gurus on the internet were teaching to make profit off of. Well, OPCA litigation has been created since 2012. That'll squish out all the people now that try to use this nonsense. So, it's just not arguable. We can argue about it, but it's arguing the use, the capacity part. We don't need to argue that because it's not important if we get to the point where we're the actual owner of the land. So there is no middleman. So Anna, if you are truly in your donor capacity and you didn't get rid of waste or, collect any of that stuff from your C jurisdiction, then you kind of did another error there, but it's not the biggest error because you have your own land. So you can now do what the governments are doing and make your own money if you needed to. That's why I'm a little confused why you're here asking what do I do to tell people, but it sounds like you have either gotten there or you think you're there and you're right where I pretty much can show you are. You're in equity and they're trapping you. They're going to come after people that are in your capacity operating in two jurisdictions. You can't have a Lodio title from D. So you would have had to, at one point, exchange that warranty that's annexed in their common law for the land that you claimed. And if you didn't do that process, that's where
British law only applies to citizens in this country.
Yeah, but it's like Quebecers saying that they don't have to follow the Canadian Constitution. It's so crazy how we believe our own jurisdiction's law, right? This is 2 Thessalonians 2:3, where the great falling away has to come around.
No, literally. The agreements are clear as far as, where British pay.
But if you search right now on Wikipedia, Paris Treaty map, you'll see that Alaska, America, all of us are all mixed in one giant landmass. So from 1763, any line that you got on a map is void right now. And they know this. They're not telling you. They don't have to tell you because you're not being competent, you're not sound, and you're not privy to it. It's not yours. It's only to be the British monarchy. So only the Queen and the other so-called queens in equity are discussing this and battling. You don't want to be part of this battle. It's going to bring us down.
I'm just going to come in as the actual final authority and take it all away from them.
But as long as you have that paperwork that can prove it, then you're good to go. We're not arguing on that. But to me, it sounds a lot from how you described. You're sitting in equity. You created your own new jurisdiction, which is very pleasing and satisfying for you and your friends. Right, I know you have.
Natural living beings have a jurisdiction, okay?
What jurisdiction is that?
It's the combined jurisdiction of air, land, and sea.
So it's the Torah. You're calling it Shalom. The heaven.
Law of the land. Right. Heaven is the law of all jurisdictions, represented by the sanctum trust. Remember?
Right. So in the Torah, it says that if you create error, that's your great folly. It's a great evil not to know the knowledge and wisdom.
Under heaven, Genesis 1, 26, 28, Adam is given the land.
It's not Adam, it's Adam. You're saying it incorrect.
Well, I don't care if I'm saying it incorrectly.
Well, you should, because now you're using it in an improper capacity, which is kind of reflecting this whole argument that we're in, is that you're using a definition of words that doesn't apply to A.
Yeah.
Well,
do you agree on that, yes or no? Because if not, that's where we have to get past.
When you make an application to the law of heaven, you are immediately throwing yourself into the realm of ecclesiastical law. And under ecclesiastical law, the people, the living people, actually have a joint dominion over the world.
Well, then, Anna, if you're using all this law, which is great, I love using scripture, but I have to throw up Matthew 12:42 and Luke 11:31, because it says right there at the end times we're given a queen of the south that attests that there's greater than Solomon, peace. So, to me, that just shows that there will be some woman that's coming from the south who claims to be a queen of the south that's going to attest. So that means she's going to pretty much give her okay that, yeah, you're peaceful or not. Is that not what people see in that scripture? Because if you guys don't see that, then what I'm going to say is basically mute. Because she's basically the friend that you'll have in this world that's going to show you and prove to you either you're sound or not sound. So if you're fighting with her, you're not sound.
All I see is a bunch of people that have very perverse ideas about, their authorities and where those authorities come from. And
our perverse ideas come strictly from the same law books that the Supreme Justices are using.
Yes, well, and they only applied British citizens. Right there, that should be a clue.
But you're using all this Alaskan municipal corporations. That should be a clue.
The municipal corporations are all under Roman law. They're under.
What do you think the British monarchy is, though? Where do you think their authority derived from?
Their authority derived from the Unum Sanctum Trust, and they are the ones that are supposed to be monitoring the jurisdiction of the sea and doing a damn poor job of it, I might add.
No, I would disagree solely. This is why they're not in control of it no more. This is why they got it taken away. Why there was a living being that stood up in a supreme equitable court and took it away from them. See, we're arguing about equity, which, like I said, it's vain, because once we own our own land, you can make all your own stuff. You can even go back into equity. You can do whatever you want. Because you're sui juris at that point until you make an agreement that is no longer putting you sui juris. So if you've achieved all this, why like what's your outcome? Like you should be lecturing, or not lecturing, but hosting these things and helping us.
Have you ever submitted a writ of waste?
I wouldn't, because I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm not a citizen of any British principality.
So from 0 to 7, what were you?
I was an independent being.
So your mom made you an independent being? How? Like that makes no sense to me. Use law.
Well, in order for me not to be an independent being, she'd have to sign me over to some other entity as a ward. And in my case, my mother did not do that.
Oh, okay. So I know. Okay. So this is important then, Anna, because if you're saying what I think you're saying, you're one of the few that don't have inheritance on this land. So guess where you go?
I was actually grandfathered in as a result of being a British citizen.
Okay, see, Passy, I'd be worried. For one, you're on land that the monarchy doesn't recognize as yours. So you by default are the trustee to that. That's why you're not being taxed. They're letting you figure that out until things get sorted out with B. That's right around the corner. So you need to not be in position.
I think that what they've done is just complete and utter horsehooey. I think it's all
but it is and it isn't, though. This is where we have to look at it from the right perspective. From the donor perspective, it's great what they've all gone and done. But see, the problem is that there's so many people that didn't stand up to be a donor of the land. They just remained in equity, which let that. It was like putting a rotten piece of fruit in the good bowl.
In the first place, we never donated it, period, at all, ever. It was all just nothing but chicanery and racketeering and force and fraud.
Still didn't change the fact.
But you want it to be legit so that you can have that legit exemption. Right?
No, I want it to be recognized as crime, and I want it to be punished, and I want all of it to be erased.
But they can't because people volunteer to this.
Another system and become unlawful yourself. You know, you've got the way to not be a part of that. Have your lands back.
This is why they don't repeal the common law. They kept the common law and just started creating their own jurisdictions within. This is why you have Bitcoin. Watch with what Bitcoin's doing. It's not that Bitcoin's taking over fiat currency. It's given them a reference point to stand now. So now you can have Walmart coin and you can have whatever. You're going to have Canadian Bitcoin, Alaskan Bitcoin.
It's no different than a coupon.
It's no different than the fiat currency. It's all the same.
What is that? It's a coupon. It's a redemption for a debt is what it is. So, you know.
Right. If you had your own land and you're self-governing, you wouldn't rely on any of these things. And if you've been in the system for a while, that's why you get up what they've done. The Magna Carta, Chapter 4 or Section 4, what do they call it? That has never been repealed for the monarchy. So only the citizens can then go ahead and do waste. They can't do waste. So because they're got the land in trust, you want to hold them in trust. You want to hold them responsible. You want to act sound and you want to stand up and be lawful. Go, okay, you're saying I'm a corporate ID? Fine. Here's my release of my actions, rights, and duties. I don't have any possession of equitable assets. So now you're stepping further. So now you're divorced, right? If you got a camper like William and you're camping by your lands, now you're as close as you can be to possession in common law to your land. You just need the equitable side to let go. That's what's happening worldwide is they don't want to do that. And people like you, Anna, have gotten into positions where you're in your own equitable zone now. but you don't want to remain there because you want to be the one that, like, if they come door to door to you, you're going to show them paperwork and they're going to know the source of authority was always from D when you started this. So then that's what governs you, is the law of D.
When we start, we're all in D, okay?
Right, so then when you're out of D though, Anna, we all have the same document. It's just individual. It's all going to be a release confirmation by the Queen's Bench. So when I asked you, like, how do you proof that? That's what you show.
Look, the Queen is delegated under my out to it. This was done back in 1087, AD. So there is no way that I am subject to the Queen in any way, and the constitutions of our country prove that. So,
but you don't have, but because you don't have a land tenure or never had one, you're never put into the land trust system here. You don't actually have a right to use the system here. This is why they're letting you do it, and you're getting away with it. You don't got proof that you were born here. You want that.
No, I have proof I was born here. You're just not getting the difference between soil and land. That's all.
Because I'm telling you, from the donor perspective, Anna, there is no difference between soil and land. I'll call land and soil the same thing if I choose.
Well,
there is no wordplay. That's how you get out of the wordplay, by getting to be a donor of the land. Then me and you, Anna, will agree. So if you always call land soil, then I'm going to now have an agreement with you only, Anna, that land is soil. So I'll start saying land is soil to you.
Think of it in terms of maps. You have a topographical map, right? That map describes soil. You have a political map that shows all of the towns and counties and whatnot. That describes land. You see the difference?
But do you not see that when you use a map, you're by default in another jurisdiction? You're using a different perspective to see the land you're standing on.
You're describing different things. In one case, you're describing the soil, the hills, valleys, rivers, blah, 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 where we actually live. And in the other case, you are describing the political landscape.
So when you invite your personal friends over that are outside of whatever jurisdiction you're protecting yourself from, and you say, hey guys, you want to come over to my soil and get together and we'll have a dinner?
Well, when you're thinking,
or do you say land to them?
Maybe you could use this analogy of the maps. Okay, you've got a topographical map, okay? And then you've got a political map that shows the countries, right? And then you have a map that shows the counties, and you have a map that shows all the little towns within those counties, okay? The towns,
jurisdictions,
the towns are municipal. That's a municipal map. And the states, the countries, and the topographical map is the soil, the actual soil, the physical being of where we all live. And what's important is to have possession of the soil, because land is only a title. It's only a figment of our imagination to say that we live in Ontario or we live in New Jersey. There's no, it's a concept, it's a description, okay?
I understand what's happening now. I get it now. What you're calling land is really called territory. So like a territory, a sales territory, someone has the control of some territory, but that's not land, that's territory. Land is land, that's something you stand on. Territory
Two
is
different
a
jurisdictions.
upper level map that is a layer over the land.
And only sovereigns can be, you can only be sovereign over your territory. Only sovereigns are in control of the territory. And right now in equity, that's the people choosing it.
No, well, you can have a land territory and you can have a sea territory. And you're right, the territorial government does preside over land and sea and municipalities.
I agree, because it's an overlay, but that's what he said. When you're a man as donor,
I've just stripped off the overlays. I went right back to, I put you naked. You go right back to the top as donor.
That's
Because
right.
you got to
Get rid of
remember,
the territories.
from that 0 to 7 state when you're growing up, when us living souls in these bodies we call men, women, whatever you want to call them, when we're growing up from 0 to 7, there's no way that you can say that you're sound. There's no way that you can claim that you're competent. Okay?
So it comes down to your parent.
Right. So your parent, by default, has to do this. We all kind of know where this kind of leads us to. We just have to turn our perspective, right? You keep saying you're looking at a map. Put the map down and look around. That's what I'm saying. You're worried about looking at it from the equitable jurisdictions. Put it down, look around the land. If you're standing in the land that you're in, right, and you're the allodial owner, so that means you got all your confirmations from the courts, then you're good to go. There's nothing more than that this group can then help, unless you want to help others achieve where you've gotten. Because by the sounds of it, either you're where we're all going, which is the reversion, or you think you're in reversion, but they've just got you in a nice little equitable position.
We know she's not done reversion. We can tell by.
Well, I know, but people have to have these self-realizations. You have to acknowledge sin. This is the greatness of air for Hasatan. He makes enormous money off people who don't know what's going on. Right? We've spent how much talking on this phone call, but we've really just gone around in circles on words.
It's because what she's discussing is a reality. It can be a reality, but it's in a different capacity. Like, and there is, we can only explain the same point so many times. It's becoming donor, isn't it? It's still a fee. You're still a fee simple subject.
The territory is just your dominion that you're in control of. And the capacity of how you're in control of that territory is what distinguishes whether or not you're the true owner of the land or you're not. The true owner of the land in equity is presumed and assumed to be the crown, the British monarchy. So if that's what you're arguing, that's again another mute fact, because
is Alaska under the United Nations, because that answers our question altogether as well.
It's all the same. They just have different jurisdictions and laws within them. But that's like how you're breaking down the maps, right? That little town, that little municipality can be broken down further into neighborhoods and then single homes. But that doesn't mean that single home is the representative of the whole complete territory, right? But the whole complete territory can be representative of the single home. That's where we want to get out of. That's taking your feet right completely out of what the British monarch has done. The whole concept of land being in a trust. She owns that. I don't care if you're in Iraq or wherever you are. It's all the same system, because that's the system that works. It's lawful because you agree to it. But if you look at the common law, which is the law between the monarchies, B, it says that it is unlawful. But it's unlawful by right or wrong. And when you said you bought your land, you purchased it by right, or you did it unlawfully by right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you ask the court, can you answer yes or no, and they answer you with the third response, which is the yes no.
We're all sitting in D, all right?
Yep.
That's where you acquire your property, is a D person, right? A citizen, obligated to the government.
That's where you acquire your territory.
Yeah, territory.
And you cannot get out of D if you owe any debt.
Yeah, but see, you don't want to be in that system at all, Anna. That's what we're talking about. It's the whole extraction. If I have land, that's going to be protected by Canada. You could search the land title for it, but it'll come up under as private, and that's it. You won't get to find out the name. You won't get to find out who's there. There'll be nothing on it.
Right. That's called an exempt private property in America. And that's what I have, is an exempt private property. But it's still described as land.
But there's private property and public property and equity. And then there's private property, and then the monarchy's property and the common law. And then the natural law, that's where you're talking about the soil thing, which I just call land, because that's where I'm trying to always stand and look from. you need agreement with me for pretty much everything that we do, say, touch, think about, or else I don't agree, because it's just going to be an assumption, and that's why we're in this whole system,
Lands.
right? So if you've got an agreement like what we're talking about, then you've done it right. But I suspect that you don't, and I suspect you've got this other thing that they've created, which is allowing people to do kind of their own thing, be their own C.
I'll tell you what, I think I've done it completely correctly, because I've lived this way for more than 20 years and I haven't paid any taxes. And
I know many people.
Yeah, but they'll be paying it for you for that land with whatever.
You should be collecting, Anna. You should be collecting.
Let her talk. You guys gotta let her
That's
talk.
true. Sorry.
Everybody here's where I think there has to be some sort of central authority or record or something. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not saying that it's the same for the Brits and the same for the Aussies and the Canadians and the Americans, but there has to be some sort of centralized digital key, like a PKI key, where that gets flipped, so that all of the different agencies, everybody knows all at once.
But there is. This is why I interrupt you, is because you start going off on stuff I know already. There is. That's the Privy Council. And you're not privy to it. You're never going to have access to that stuff. This is why it's like there's too much of the other law that's being blended into this. Yeah, you have to let go. That stuff is wrong. That's the only way I can explain it.
System.
Yeah, it's right for the jurisdiction and capacity that you're agreeing to, but this is not what the states in reversion is. Like, I'm going real nice because I can do the other words, but William would hit you with all these laws, and it would just, like, he'd be going good.
Yeah, he would be ripping a new one.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen. We want to be nice, but...
Nah, you're making him out to be some devil. He'd provide the facts so we couldn't dispute it. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You rip people with truth. That's all you rip them with.
Well, then why isn't it working for you?
Oh, it will. We're learning it now. That's what the group's for.
Yeah, none of us have gone into the Queen's Bench to get it. I'm waiting on some money that's being sent to me, and then as soon as I have that money, I'm going into Queen's Bench and I'll do this. But like I said earlier in the chat, I'm not going to be in this chat no more. You want to talk to me, you'll have to private message me to do correspondence.
So you're going to go into the Queen's Bench and plead for your freedom.
No, freedom is just the being absent of cohesion. It's not whatever people are starting to think freedom is. Freedom is something I don't agree on. Queen's Bench is, what I'm going into Queen's Bench is I got to get the proper paperwork that confirms that Canada acknowledges that I'm no longer a corporate person, that I don't have that attached to me, that I don't want any of the rights, the duties, or any actions from that. Once they've accepted that, which only the Queen's Bench Justice can, he's the only one privy to this trust. Okay, so once he's accepted that, then I'm going to put in some other stuff, which is what we're calling in brackets vesting the land, which is your writ of entry, right? I also want my writ of waste because I want all the value to that back. I got I think about $34 million in annuities sitting that the government usurps. I want that, right? You say you're not paying a fee. Well, that's great, but you should be collecting fees from governments. They're paying it to. If they're paying it to the monarchy and not to you, there's something wrong there, because the monarchy doesn't own the land. That's just an assumption in equity, which is what everybody's operating in. That's why they go to their state, their head of the state, to get it. That's why we're going to the Queen's Bench to get the exemption, so that the head of the whole system says, yeah, we agree. You're out.
Yeah, a deed of release.
Deed of release for the deed poll that they use and you inadvertently use, but it's your remittance, your warranty for the land.
It's your coat check.
We call it an indemnity receipt because that's what it is under General Orders 100.
But that's just for the law of nations. You're not a nation. You're just a single.
Doesn't matter. It still applies. That
But it does matter, because if you're using it, Anna, then you've put yourself into either you are a C, recognize that you're not, then by default you're a D.
The thing that they did here started in the 1860s, okay? And it spread worldwide, but it started here in terms of us having these birth certificates as indemnity receipts. And it's since gone through the Hague Convention. So if Canada is a signatory on the Hague Convention, you can bet that it applies to you.
But you don't want, your birth certificate isn't a redemption to anything.
It's a redemption.
It's the registration of live birth. The birth certificate is the certificate of the birth of the corporate ID. Your acceptance.
The certificate is an insurance indemnity receipt. They have received your estate. They are holding your estate in trust.
And what's your estate in trust? It's the land.
Right, so they're holding your estate in trust, and that is the receipt that they gave you.
And I have to disagree. Your act of live birth, that's the receipt. The birth certificate for your estate, that's your acceptance of slavery by living. So the library companies have made a contract with you, and you accepted. Your parents do that. But you said that you were never put into that system. That's why I said you're kind of in this predicament where it's like you're not in this inheritance system, but you're claiming to be here. So if your parents were ever in it, then you can guarantee that you do have the inheritance, and it's just sitting there not being claimed.
Actually, it goes back to 1860 when all of this started.
Right.
And that's why they think so. That's why they're getting so because there are those of us that still go back beyond 1860.
Right, but any contract that you've agreed to, or any of your members of your family, if it's ever been a municipal law, then you've agreed to English law, which then it voided anything you had before. Your laws are the monarchs, and the land that you gave up was.
Are you familiar with the concept of the usufructuary interest?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Queen comes along and is acting as a usufruct through the territorial government here. They're getting.
But you volunteered to be it though now, so
they're not doing it. They always say that. Oh, you volunteered. Unless you knowingly are acting on it. It's an invalid contract. It's fraud. It's a unilateral preposition or.
Context of fraud is dishonesty and deprivation. So it's only until you can establish they don't have color of right, and they're not acting upon that. But if they're doing that, your next action would be Queen's Bench anyways. So that's why we kind of say just go to the Queen's Bench. Right? Because if you never went to the Queen's Bench and got these confirmations, then you surely are not in reversion. You're in that new equitable zone that,
the Queen never owned our land. I'm sorry, the Queen never owned our land. She didn't buy it. She lost. But
who owns Alaska? And who owns the United States of America? And then who owns the United States? And then you have to ask who owns the Vatican.
I know all these answers.
But then why are you saying it? Because it doesn't sound right.
The United States of America unincorporated is a completely different beast than the United States of America incorporated. And these are things that are established in the history that not everybody knows. But what I can tell you is that the suppositions that you're making don't apply to people here.
Right.
Because we're not under the Queen. The Queen is under us. The Queen is operating under our delegated power in this country unless we are U.S. citizens.
But saying that sounds so silly, because a U.S. citizen, you have to look at what their seat of law is, which is your Constitution, the Independence Declaration, which you only declared to make your own law in equity.
No. Totally different situation. there are people that exist under the Declaration. There are people who exist under the Constitution. Non-citizen nationals are under the Declaration.
Right. So now let me explain to you this. The Republican, the former that you have, they lost their authority. And only the elite, we'll call them elite because just simplify the conversation. The elite used that dominion to get where they are today, which created that corporation known as the United States, which everybody is now being as part of the 14th Amendment, including Canadian citizens. Okay, this is the United States Security Exchange Commission that if you're registered to that, you become default chattel for it. Right, so we're all in the same boat, and they're only using their authority to create that United States from the Republic position using the English law, which was the Municipal Corporation Act, which gave them the original authoritative power to then go ahead and make these mini jurisdictions, which you explain with your analogy of the soil and the land and the maps. That's what I see, is what you're trying to explain, the multi-layers that's going on. But you still have to come right to the outside of that onion if you're going to peel it. You don't peel it from the inside out. It comes from the outside. So you start at the first. Because if you can void ab initio, the whole thing, then why would you start at the end and work to the beginning?
Because by maxim of territorial law, as a thing is bound, so it is unbound. You can't just put yourself magically outside of the box and then come back into
Territorial
the box.
law.
But this is where you contradict yourself, because in that release, when you release your duties, your rights, and your actions, what do you think you just do right there? This is why God gives you the power. Right? Nobody can say, well, you've got me in a contract.
Case, we do have rights and powers in the territorial jurisdiction that do not belong to the Queen and aren't delegated to her. And that's the difference.
So what are you doing here?
But the land tenure is the British monarchies. So you can be in a different jurisdiction and do what you're doing, Anna, but it still doesn't get rid of the land tenure system problem.
The land is in trust.
You said you were going to talk to Donald Trump. Why are you writing to Donald Trump? May I ask that? Because I can tell you why he's failing and why he went and did what he did, especially with the Israel move.
Well, Donald Trump wants the history of this laid out in a simple fashion, and I'm doing that from the American perspective, not anybody else's.
Okay, well, Donald Trump tried to get recognition from Gatsby, okay, the Queen of the South, and I know you know her because of the communications you guys have had. Now, he was denied, just like Obama, and Constitution. They want to hold on to that. And if you understand why they want to hold on to that and what significance that means, then you understand why Trump is just never going to win. No.
The Queen of the South won't talk to anybody but other monarchs.
That's not true.
She doesn't recognize anyone that isn't a sovereign.
That's not true, because I spoke to her myself.
And I'm in a very good relationship with her.
Well, she will not. In my experience with her, she would not even consider talking to
That might
Donald
be because of the capacity you're acting in. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I can tell you it's the same reasons why I'm rebutting you on the stuff. It's because you're claiming to basically have the original certificate title, which is the first of the four corners of the world. That's why it's called 1-4S. Or 4S is the reconstructed one she's done for us now in modern times. Okay? So she had family that were originally co-signers to that. We're reaching back to the, Prince Philip's days, okay? When they invaded the Philippines. Okay? So that treaty that they agreed with the Philippine people there, that gave them the power to go ahead and do what they've done to all of us here now. Well, she reclaimed that through the paperwork that she had from her bloodline. They've acknowledged it, and that's why I say it's about B switching over now B. But it's not a matter of her just saying, okay, now it's all in the new kingdom, everything's going to be great. We all sing Kumbaya and hug each other. Because anything that you've got agreeing with the municipality disables it, just like your inheritance. So it'll disbar you. So that OCT that you have, or that she has, is what gave Alaska the power to be doing what it was doing. So you can't go to Alaska and get the power. That's what she was trying to do. That's why you butted heads with her. You're telling her, well, I already got all this. And she's saying, well, then no, you don't.
She has a title that is based on stuff with King Philip. I have a title that's based on restoration and settlement of Mormon settlement. So I mean,
no, not the title of King Philip. That was just part of it. That's just where I'm pointing back in our modern history, because it's kind of vain to start going past that because, well, we're not even agreeing on some of this stuff now. Right?
Well, I'm just telling you.
She would only attest to you. So people always get the bad thing from her is because people think that she's expecting like money for land and all this. No, she's here to attest that you're not them. Right? So you still have to be self-governing. Right? So if you would have gone to her without butting heads about you thinking you own land and all this, you probably wouldn't have experienced any turbulence. Because she already has done 15 years worth of work in getting that OCT from the Vatican, which they have conspired for the last 200 plus years not to give back to the people. Now, the people of the United States is actually the Philippines. If you look, you'll find that it is there. That's why you don't want to use anything that they're using. Yeah, look, Treaty of Paris. What do you think? What do you think the British monarchy was doing in America? Occupying it with a peace treaty because they created a body politic called America.
No.
But see, we're arguing on stuff that I don't want to argue on.
Yeah, you don't know the history. There's no point in arguing it. But anyway. This is very interesting. I'll be very interested in seeing what you come out with as a process as it pertains to Britain and all the rest of the former Commonwealth countries. It'll be fascinating. And I'm not trying to discourage you in any way. I'm just saying that there's a lot of this stuff that goes back a lot further that is going to blow up to smithereens.
Right, and this is where me and you don't agree on, because if you've agreed at it, anything from back there is now void. That's why you have to start anew. That's why we have a new queen in equity that's redeeming everything, restarting the society. So as we can argue, get offended, and fight with her, we don't get any further socially as a being living here on this earth plane.
Just remember the maxim of law. As the thing is found, so it is unfound.
Right. And the main thing about Sebastian that I found was that she's in control of the book of life. So as we remain in the book of death, which is the Liber de Wittonia, the Doomsday Book, and thus the mini Doomsday Book after, if you're caught in that, then you're caught in the book of death. How can you say you're in the book of life if you're going against what the New Testament scripture has claimed? And if you look at Isaiah, it's pretty much saying it right there of Old Testament. Yahushua being a third person, it's a capacity no different than person. So if you're binding with wisdom and you're binding with the Father, Creator, Yah, and you're being the benevolent, peaceful sui juris third one, then you've got your Yahushua that the scripture is trying to tell us in Old English parables. Right? But you kept saying about the Torah. Well, the Torah is in Hebrew, so if we're going to speak Hebrew, then we have to point to the word dabar, and dabar means word and thing. So we separate that now today in our language, which is not correct, because in the original Hebrew, God never separated anything. The first word he spoke was et, which we can see from the first sentence. Bereshit bara et. Right? So this is all about being self-governing and benevolent. And if we can all agree to meet minds, which unfortunately our society that we all grew up in, no matter what generation of us in here, we are all trained not to do this. We don't come to one mind no more. And it won't matter if land and soil are two different things. If we're all at a capacity where we're no longer being usurped and being a usufruct, then, hey, you can call it air and I'd be happy. Right? Do you see how it's kind of vain?
Just remember that where we live, what's actual and factual, combines all three jurisdictions, air, land, and sea, and there isn't a separation into jurisdictions.
But law is also jurisdictionized. Domicile, exactly. Domicile is the most perfect, accurate word to describe it. Where your domicile is where you're bound by your law. The law of conflicts, or the conflict of laws, international private, or the treaty on international private law. That's where it's going to explain that. Because we all want out, and we don't like today was a good day for us to chit chat, but for 2 hours and 15 minutes, did any of us get further ahead?
I'm just
are we going to be able to get our land back and end this craziness? Because I feel that we keep we just review massive reviews, which will only get us to a state that we can't do anything.
But
How about that? Put it on paper, get the treatise finished, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, why not? We'll get the
yeah, if you look at omnipotence, William's already added basically all the law books that I'm depriving my stuff from. So I'm not trying to deviate much from there. See, if William was speaking, he would recite it from word to word, and he would be posting it on the Skype chat at the same time.
Right now.
Yeah, like he's very much better at presenting the English law than me. I like to sit back and just kind of bring it all together so that we don't.
You can't argue when the written fact of law is there, which is why
Who's the law? And in which jurisdiction? You have to have.
Well, we've already understand. We know what yours is. You keep saying Alaska, America.
Right.
We know what your capacity is.
Yeah,
as
what
we
do you
know
do
what
for a
mine is.
living? What's your name? What do you do for a living?
Yeah, you're claiming to be a judge that's from Alaska, so we know your capacity in law. We wouldn't have to ask you these questions. That's why police.
That's only an office. That's not me. Yes, your person is separate from you.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like a criminal going, well, I didn't mean to kill them.
No, it's
well, they're going to look at your history. What have you done? What led up to that, right? So if you've been acting as D all up to this point and then start claiming you're not D, well, you surely still are the duck.
You have to start at D because you've been hijacked out into that jurisdiction.
Let's understand it from this way. Because you are a judge in that capacity, we know that when you do go home, in whatever other capacity you're talking about, that is all still fee simple, because you would not be able to be the judge in the first place, managing multiple persons.
You don't understand the concept of person and jurisdiction. Stop.
But what gave the authority for person though in our modern day life?
You have a title on the land, and you can also be interpreted as a foreign situs trust on the sea. Both of
we're going around in circles.
It's not. I could chart it out and you'd see what I was talking about. But anyway, this all has to do with the name.
What's your experience when you cross the borders, Anna?
I have no trouble crossing borders. In fact, I don't.
Do you present anything?
All you have to present at the borders, if you know what you're doing, is an identification that you can create yourself through the post office. You don't have to.
See, but that's your seat in law, though, is the post office. The post office's seat in law is English law. English law's seat in law is the British monarchy. The British monarchy's seat in law is the land tenure that you gave up.
Our seat in law is Philadelphia, not the British monarchy.
But can I point to Philadelphia from can I take an inhabitant from across seas and go, can you point where Philadelphia is for me? See how you came from equity and tried to explain something? Right? The donor would be explaining physical landmarks and how to get there. Well, you got to go past this tree, past here, right? But if we're explaining the titles or the capacities or the operations in law, then by default, by our speak, we are a speaking citizen. This is why if you go into the court in the wrong capacity, even if you're in the right court, but now you're not in the right capacity, you fail. This is kind of why nobody just goes out and does it. And the people that have gone out and done it aren't part of this group yet.
And shove them up butts. That's my thought. But
but you won't have to, though, if you're looking at it like they're protecting your land. It was a good thing. It was your error.
At one time.
I think it's a good time at all times, even past, like I'm 34, so I've gone past the age of 13, like not just like last year. So I've damaged my inheritance for a while. But that's my folly. I can't point to some other man and be like, that's your fault. You didn't tell me. Well, that's not your fault. You didn't show me. Oh, my parents didn't show me. You can say that once. After that, we all felt that there's something wrong with the system, right? We just didn't go and do what William did. William went and did the hard work, and now it's all presented on omnipotence.
Every law you've mentioned can all be backed up about where that law comes from. You ask yourself, when I mentioned the law earlier, but where did that law get its authority? Well, where did any of these laws get its authority? And every one you've mentioned, every one of them reverts back to English law. And how did that begin?
Well, yeah, but you got to remember the British monarchy was ordained by the Vatican. They're basically a usufruct of the Torah. So when we start to argue that, well, it's all the authority of Torah, they're snickering because they know. But what they're doing is ordained by the Torah. Because they're looking at it like, hey, we're trusting the land. We're making sure that none of this land is stolen by other people, that people aren't disinherited, that, the Christians can rise up. That's what this is about. So when you look at it from that, the system's actually really beautiful. It's been my error. I err the whole entire time until I just became the capacity. And now at 34, I'm at the capacity of knowledge where I can go into the Queen's Bench, use the recognized process of law to reclaim the land that I should have went and got when I was 13. But I didn't. But that's, my fault. I don't even want to discuss it. Yeah, oh well, my bad. But I do want my waste tallied up, and I want my inequity all returned back, which is what they will do. But you have to do it in the right process. We were all waiting for William to do it, but William experienced problems with family. So it's either going to be me or William. I'm waiting on my check coming in the mail, and then I'll have the funding to go put the process through. And if they put any motions in, I'll have the money to counter the motions. So, because it's where your motions come into play.
And I know you're a busy person, but it would behoove you to read like the first couple of chapters of the Law of Domicile or the Private International Law or the Statute of Uses on the site. Because when you do that, you're going to see a lot more and looking at it.
We really need to get people's testimony, because I've seen a lot of comments going, I really had eye-opener when I read it, which is true. When you read the actual law and what the monarchy's law is, you're going to go, wow.
Yeah, it's not what we
this
think.
Simple, and I was doing it so wrong. That's why it hasn't worked out perfect. Right? It might work out good, which is what you got, and we're not bashing that, not discouraging you to get in a good position. Hell, if anybody can get from a bad position in equity into a good possession and then get out, go that route by all means. Right? You don't have to go in a straight line to the end. Right? You can go in a zigzag if it's going to make your life comfortable, right? We have 6 children, so I can't be like William, pack us all up into a tiny camper, and we're going to go live close to my land. I've got to live where we are until, the Queen does that. And my wife's in the background. I would like that. I know she'd like it. I'd love that too, but it's not practical right now, right? And this is why another reason we formed this group. So we all come together, all share a story, all share what we learned about the same laws, and then go forward from there. Because what people will see, what we did together, they will see it as, it'll be the guide. Oh, so that's what they did, and it only took a couple of days? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Done. Simple. But they're not in the group now to talk about it. If you want to talk to them, you got to private message them, because you got to realize you're D, they're A. And you got to treat it just as.
Yeah, I was wondering something on that, Justin, right? You know, like say if I try and message my Attorney General, because I'm not acting in the right capacity, I'll just get a blunt response that doesn't answer anything because he can't deal with me. He's only, you know...
he probably won't respond to you.
But what my question is when you're out or I'm out, when, you know, whoever it might be, a friend that can try talk to you, would they have to present themselves in a certain manner before you could kind of liaise with them, or could you kind of tell them what manner that the
this is why I love to bring it back to the name, the source of this whole babble, the name. What do I call you if I'm your friend? If I'm not your friend, what do I call you? It's that simple.
Yep.
Right? If you're not my friend, how do I present myself to you? The hug. Who knows what it is? You guys in England like to, or in Quebec, they like to kiss. So it's different, right? So your friends don't have to call you up and be like strict protocol, like movie type stuff, right? They can call you up and be, hey, what's up? Right? But if you're going to start to interact with function of government, which is the real D, right? Because us volunteering to be function of government isn't real D. So fake D.
They could just ring you and you could discuss the trust, anything that's going to injure them potentially.
No, you can't. Well, you can speak to your friend about it. But if he's going to go on to YouTube or Facebook right after and go, hey, I just talked to him, this is what he said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably going to get in trouble there.
Yeah, that means you shouldn't be telling them, because you've ultimately... So you shouldn't tell them at all.
If they come up to you and go, hey, how'd you get into this? I've been looking into this reversion stuff. Can you kind of help me through it? Boom, there's your invitation. There's no more harm. It's the vampire story, right? Vampire knocks on your door, but he can't come in, right? A can knock on D's door, but they just can't come in. D's got to invite him in, and as soon as D's invited A in, well, now D's become A. Because this is the whole slaughter your enemies that the scripture talks about and then bathe in their blood, right? The blood of their inequity. You'll have a feast afterwards once you've explained this. It'll be grand. You'll be celebrating. You'll be like, what? We're going tomorrow to do this? Yeah! That's how it'll be. But you won't be able to go onto Facebook and be like, so today my post is about estates and reversion. This is step 4. That's why we built Omnipotence, right? This is why we got the communication hub, so that we're not on social media doing this. We're in a somewhat private jurisdiction, but it's not the jurisdiction that we have to be in afterwards. So. But yeah, your friends or family, you don't. That's where you kind of have to apply the old common sense saying, right? If he's your friend, treat him like your friend. But if he's not, well,
I'll try to treat him.
You're going to be trying to do business, aren't you?
I'll try to find it again, but that conversation where they talked to the British attorney and he called them back in 20 minutes was a conversation between the informant and somebody else on the recording. So I'll try to pull that up.
Yeah, and once you act in the right capacity and start doing things on the other side of this, it'll be completely different. It'll be treated like royalty. You got to remember that this is the whole point of the land trust companies, is to make sure this is working. Or else you would have us all with pitchforks going to Parliament Hill and killing every one of them. But that's the difference between reading the law and remaining sound, right? You're going to be honorable, right? You got me in an agreement? Great. How do I get out?
Clean hands.
Right, because if there's no way out of the agreement, what are you dealing with now? Because by definition, criminal context of fraud is dishonesty. But if you're saying, well, this is not fair, I'm not a citizen, blah, 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 that's not how you get out of it. And you surely can't call it fraud right off the start, right? You got to pick apart it there. That's where you go at the end, right? Well, you got me all signed up as D, I'm not D, and then you got to explain that. It's a thorough process, but it's kind of like There is no template that we can all kind of share and go over with. Once I'm out of reversion, I can't call up the group and go, so you want to walk through the stuff with me here? I'll share what I've got. That's privilege between me and the British monarchy, because if I expose that to anybody else and start, or even gets to the point where they can pull in a witness and testify that I shared it with them, I've broken the privilege cause with the land trust company, the British monarch, and I'm no longer sound. Right? That's where you go back to natural law, right? Right? Love your other neighbor. Are you going to keep your agreement? So if you make an agreement with the land trust company, the British monarch, saying that you're going to come out of equity and right, you want to be exempt and all that, and then you kind of go back in. Are you being honorable, or is this fiction being honorable at this point? Because right, just like Angela said, the monarchy is treating us like brothers and sisters, not like just like as friends. They're actually caring about us. This is what's so screwed up, is that we've brainwashed ourselves to thinking the system's bad. But you have to come to the point where you acknowledge the system is not bad.
It's there for a reason.
Yeah, Hollywood brainwashed us. The equity, they had to keep us entertained, right? Because if you leave equity, then there's no more equity. There's no more profit. That's what's gone wrong, is that smart men seen that equity is very profitable. If I can keep people in equity, then I create a lot of profit for me. Not only do I not have to be in equity, but I could be doing whatever I want as a donor, right? In reversion, you're evil. Which is why cue the British monarchy, the English law, and everything that's governing everything. Or else we'd have that system, which is what people are teaching on the internet, which is happening, right? The 1%. No, that's stupid. That's stupid talk. I don't mean to offend anybody, but it is stupid talk. All the stuff after that is mute. Aliens, shape of the world, Hollywood actors, reality TV, sports. All of this is to distract you from doing whatever you were sent here to do, which is tied directly to the land that you are an inhabitant to, which Anna likes to call soil. But right. I call it just, in the donor capacity, it's the same to me. Soil, vegetation, trees, foliage, water, air. This is my land. In the donor capacity, all mine.
Hereditaments.
Yeah, hereditaments, it all mine. Mine, right? This is where that Carl Lentz has really screwed up a lot of people, because he teaches Blackstone, but he merges it with a common law assumption from equity, which is that there's some common law that you can get into out of equity that is like so cool that, you have the right to travel land. But if you understood the capacity in the donor and the monarchy and what's going on with the land trust, you'll know that you have the right to travel on your land if you are a donor, right? If you're not a donor, you have the right to travel land, but it's a fee for it.
But you're missing the point. You don't have to donate anything ever. You don't have to be part of that collective. You don't have to join that.
But who's going to protect our lands when we're 0 to 7? If we get into reversion, that won't be a question. But it's a question right now. Who would protect you? Who protects the lands for the miners, the ones that are unsound? Because right now we've left it to some really evil people. And they're following the law.
Our parents?
Parents are in the system, though, already.
Yeah, but you can only blame your parents once.
That's descent.
So now we have to grow up, mature, and redeem this system that's been usurped. That's our responsibility. All these people that are talking about this, we all connect because this is our call. What's going on right now, right? We all have a cause of action to go to the Queen's Bench about the land tenure. That cause of action is that we not only did not choose the British monarchy for a land trust, but they don't tell us and they cannot hear us in equity. So there's your first injury for everybody.
They can't speak to us.
That's an injury. So in other words, the only way equity can exist is if it does not, what? Injure the donor. Now, are you injured if you cannot be told, or anybody around you can hear the knowledge that you obtain when you become a donor from D? So there's your injury. Equity is injuring the donors big time. Why? Because they're just not open and clear about it. There's no transparency. This is what's drawn us all to fight this, right? So that's why we want to go after the law. Use the injury is in the law. It's like using somebody else's own words to allow them to injure themselves, and then you get the remedy by their own words and what they did.
That's why you have to know those laws, because it's their own admission of what's the correct way to do these things. And they can't defend against it.
The warranty.
Yeah.
Right? So if you never, it's like your warranty for your vehicle. You don't follow the warranty, well, your warranty's void.
It's kind of like a recording, you know. If you have somebody on recording saying they did something, and then they go into the court and, you know, say, I didn't do them the law, or in this case, the recording of what they did, they're stuck. That's what we're doing. We're just showing them what they've already said, what it already says about the warranty, about the reversion, everything, and about what we had to do, which has all been written down already. And all we do is show it to them. And we ask them one question, you know, are you preventing me from keeping my land? It really comes down to one basic question. It's like, are you preventing me from getting my land?
Or before that.
Say yes, and they're divorcing you, and that's when you have a claim, an injury.
Second injury.
Second injury.
Because we all have that first injury. That's why we can go just straight to a Queen's bench. Claim land, best land.
Except forcing us to be a court person.
But I will, of course, share the process up right until my confirmation. I won't share my confirmation that I get from the Queen's bench just until I know that I have everything secure. And I don't mean like secure from them. I mean secure like in my own way I can defend myself. Then I'll share what I've got from them, because I won't be scared that they'll try to take shit away.
Hey, Justin, is a confirmation and a deed of release, are those the same thing, or is there a little bit different to it?
No, the confirmation is your deed release.
Okay, that's what I
It's
thought.
like 4 parts.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just you got to remember that they keep redefining everything in each new jurisdiction you go to. That's why I try to always break it back to just let's do real talk and pretend we're already at A. Because even this English law talk is kind of making a sound on sound to like Anna, who's gone and got a comfortable position, and then she sees us talk about English law and go, well, that's just crazy. Well, it is, because from her perspective, she's in comfort.
No,
But if that monarchy falls, then you're in trouble, just like us, like everybody.
it doesn't. I'm not reacting to it that way. It's just that I have a different position with regard to the monarchy and its duties owed to me.
But the duties should
need to read their own law, and that will change automatically.
Who do you have them to then?
Post-release, there should be only 2 duties that the monarchy has to you at this point, and that's to protect your lands from D.
Well, who does she think she has them to? That's the question.
Yeah.
Look at the Queen's coronation oath.
Who do
That's
you
equity.
think? Who do you think your authority is? You know.
Authority does not drive law. That's the first part. Law
Well, what
is
law do you think you're bound by?
You always have to have a law. Your land has to have a law, or else you are surely a pirate, like I called you. What land are you bound by? Because if you're following the Torah, like I said, this whole system is ordained by the Torah. So by your admission tonight, you said some things that incriminated yourself. So if I was the council that was ever fighting you, to me, it wouldn't be difficult to get you. I'd OPCA you real quick. Probably right in the first motion, I'd go for it.
Can you do that by quoting a verse or something?
We have
No.
The earth. Okay? The earth is not the world.
But Anna, if you were in the
Your
dominion of that
workload,
earth given to you by God, you'd have all this done and you'd be in reversion. Reversion is man's description of Genesis 1:26 there, where we've granted dominion.
Also.
Right. So none of those things are under law. All of those things are by dominion, by right, by sovereignty, by free will. So
Yeah, law is contract, and agreement is acceptance.
yeah, well,
I know it's overwhelming, but it can't get more simpler than that, though.
well, yeah, only if you accept implied contracts as being lawful, and they're not. They're legal. But anyway, that's another whole discussion. I'm really looking forward to hearing more and seeing the treatise when it's ready. I would really like to just have something I can look at and go bing, 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 bing. Okay, this is their process, blah, 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 blah. And then, God help you if you can go through.
Well, if you look at, see, you must have missed the, or you did miss the last call there. Did you not put that up there, Andrew? The template? I'm not sure if Andrew's still on.
No.
That template, right? We should post it every time we do a chat so that it's easy referenceable. There's a template that we got with the mind program there. The mind map the mind map program. That is the process that you need to do. So if you cannot answer the questions in that little map structure, then that's where you need to know where your area is, because you need to be able to know that for the Queen's Bench.
Yeah, Anna, the website basically started out as a collection of English law and documents to the proof of the things that we're talking about here. Then over time, we've been trying to develop it into more of a quote process. But basically, everybody comes at it from different ideas. So when you read things, it automatically changes the way you think about it because, you have more information, obviously. So now we've been working on this mind map, which is basically a idea where you can understand it, you can apply it, you can, what's the other one? Claim it, and then reversion. It's 5 steps. Anyway, I'll send you a...
It's the visualization of what this group is. So when you first came in here, Anna, and asked kind of for a description, that should have been what you visualize when you see a state and reversion. Because we're all working towards those same points. We have to understand the law first, which is usually breaking what we knew of the law before. Then we have to learn the law, which is a simple process, just reading the books that are already uploaded now onto omnipotence.ca. Or go to your law library and do it there. It'll be the same result. Once you know that, it's just making the claim, which is the understanding part. And we will walk people through that the best that we can, but you're still going to have to do the claim on your own. Like you have to actually go to the courthouse to do your claim. Right? And then that process is simple. It's just the actual release of your corporate person, the actions, duties, and rights, and then vesting your land, which will be a writ of entry and the writ of prohibition if you want protection. And that's all I'm going for is those 2 writs in there. So it's a very simple process.
Yeah. Actually,
so your read will be a paragraph, if that.
Yeah, right.
Well, I would like to see the treatise. I would like to read through and see the logic and the citations of the law. And I would like to get a handle on your process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what, exactly what this is doing in terms of moving the court.
Right.
Because the court in itself is not a force, it's a tool. And
right. That's why it has to be the right capacity or the right court. If you've used the wrong tool to do what we're doing, or you need to do to get reversion, it won't happen. This is another reason the OPCA litigation has propped up in 2012 and is usable across all Commonwealth nations. And I've seen it used in the United States right after, a month after they used it. So that's the justice I have to deal with, that nice gentleman there who created that. So, and I have no fear going against him because I know that it's my land and they've got it only in trust. So, But we will share whatever we've got up here, and we'll continue to share because, like I said, the main goal was just to bring people together as one mind. The omnipotent site is just the proof of the stuff we found. So it's more like a library.
If you go to the treatise and then go to the right-hand side, those links on the right-hand side will become active as we fill them in. And so you start with understanding and then learning and then proving and then claiming and then reversion. Because, you need to know how it goes from beginning to end. And in the part on the website called Reversion, there's another section in there that shows about recent documents. And you can go in there and pick on those documents, they're PDFs, and read, those. And those will give you a pretty good overview, and you'll know the whole thing without anybody having to tell you anything.
And the
You just have to
reversion
kind of get
section.
the idea of where you're coming from. Yeah.
Okay, well.
But the main
main
place to stay though, Anna, if you're starting to get lost and you want to ask questions, is that main chat that is States in Reversion Skype group, because that's where our central communication hub is. So anybody can jump in there and ask questions, and you'll pretty much be able to reach any of us at any time.
And that's why it's so many messages on there. People just have little conversations back and forth, and you learn a lot just from the conversations.
But as we grow this and we move forward, it'll become way more comprehensible. And as we have more people gather together and we have different perspectives, we'll be able to flush out that one single printable template that walks you through A to B. And it's just pretty and printable, and it's not, we have to sit on Skype for 2 hours to talk about it. We're just not there yet because it's a big process.
Yeah.
Review seems to be the hugest hurdle that we're having right now, is that we have to hammer out a way that we don't waste time on review. Because if I could have had something that I could have just sent to you earlier, we could have avoided this 2 hours of where we just kind of went in circles.
Yeah.
Right. We could have been discussing natural law, common law, what is the different jurisdictions, right? Right. But I've got a system that I'm applying behind the scenes there, where I'm going to break things off so that we're always working in 90-day increments. So every 30 day there'll be a main change of what you need to learn, and in between there you'll have your learn periods and kind of walk everybody through it, so that that's where everybody kind of falls, is that you're given everything and then
no routine.
Yeah, it's like, what do we do? What do we do? We read this, now what? And it's just like, well, we got to review first. So you got to be quiet, and we're going to review, right? We got to break that. So we got a system that we're going to try to apply so we'll get going, and hopefully we can move forward so that this is the year that everybody removes their handicap in equity and gets in reversion. And then our Skype calls after that will be about something different, like how was this that you grew, or right, what did you do here to fix this, or real life problems, not this make up
dealing
stuff.
with this fictional garbage all the time.
Yeah, this should have been what we were talking about at 7
And I
to
can't
8.
wait.
It said we were playing with toys.
Bring back the half.
Right. If we would have talked about this for a year, we could have been like living our whole entire life in some kind of celebration mode, which is not called living. It's just called celebrating, because that's what it is. Right.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, there's people in equity that are celebrating every day. Every day.
Till they got to pay.
Right.
Till
Y'all
some of
got
them have to pay.
Those people aren't in the book of life.
Yeah.
Like
So I
you
think
said.
I'm gonna. She's like, those people aren't in the book of life.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. The rich men won't. You can't come into this rich. You can be rich, but you got to give all that away.
Yeah, they
If
don't
you're
want to
gonna
sell
just-
other goods. They don't want to sell other goods to giving them away.
No, and that's the one thing that disbars people, and right away that makes people turn away from this, is that, well, I got to give away everything I've collected, stomping their foot.
Well, it's all trust
Yeah.
property. You can't have any trust property. You got to give away the trust property in order to come out of the trust. It's so basic.
That's right. So that's why if you're
God says don't make friends
Yeah, God says don't make friends with this world. That's what it's meaning. Because if you're a successor, a donor to this estate, you're going to be thinking way far ahead, like your great grandchildren. Like when I went to pick my land, I was thinking 1,000 generations below me, like it says in Scripture. So I'm going to be shown this knowledge, then I got to be thinking way down the road, not just like, hey, how's my? No, we got to think mature here. This is a restarting of society for us all, or it gets worse. That's really the only options left now. Get out.
All right. Well, this recording has been this call has been recorded since about, I don't know, half an hour after Anna joined. So if anybody wants to review it, but I think we should cut it because it's
yeah, it's going to be too much to upload.
2 hours.
Thank you everybody for joining.
And, normally when you're just end it now. But normally when you're recording, set yourself up for a specific increment. So like if you're going to only do like a 60